Welcome everybody. I'm your trainer tonight, Vicky Hanna, and I'm filling in for Christina, who is away on leave this week. So I think we'll go through just a meet and greet of everybody for those who are watching the recording. It's a small group tonight, but we can have a very rich conversation and make it focused around our key learnings and practice skills, if you like, on this particular unit. So we'll do an intro. I work at HADA. I'm a trainer and an assessor, and I'm also the program manager for all the trainers. So I sit across several of the classes, and I'm filling in for Christina only because she's on a week's leave and she'll be back next week. So Daryl, we'll start with you. Tell us what part of Australia that you're sitting on at the moment, and what's your why about doing your AOD studies?
Yeah, I'm in Victoria, Scarsdale, which is near, probably would have heard of Ballarat. About 30 k's out from there. I live on a bush block, 25 acres, and only a little, but it's nice and peaceful out here. Yeah, why am I doing this? Just basically, I've done trades all my life, and I think my body's starting to get a bit sore for digging holes and things, so I thought I'd try this out. I've been sort of doing it on my own, like a lot of people I've known over the years, and seem to always be helping somebody out, so I might as well be getting paid for it. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, a
That's
good
about it.
start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Olivia.
Okay, I'm Olivia and I live in WA. I live in the farming country east of Perth. I'm doing this AOD course because I want to work with young people, but I want, as AOD is a big issue with young people, I also want to have that qualification so I can support them in that area if it ever comes up.
Yeah, great. And we work together because I've been sitting in your youth work qual space. So I know what a great worker you are at this. So it's nice to be back in the same class with you, Olivia.
Yeah.
And Belinda.
Hi, everybody. I live in Queensland. I'm about half an hour north of Gympie. I'm on a couple of acres out in the bush. So I live in just a little tin shed, and it's very very primitive, but it's a nice, beautiful place to be. And I'm doing this course because I have my own drug and alcohol history. I actually was introduced to HADA through an AA group that I attend in Gympie. There's a HADA clinic just outside Gympie, yep. And they attend the AA group that I go to. So I've had a lot to do with the clients at HADA over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. And they've inspired me to do this course.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I'm also in Queensland, and I'm very sad that we lost State of Origin last night, but hey, that's how it goes. A little bit further north than you, I'm on Tarrabalan Bunda, which is often referred to as Bundaberg. So a little bit further north than you. So I am rugged up. It does feel like winter, but I'm also very respectful that, Daryl, you look like you're in summer. And
I'm in a t-shirt.
Gosh, no, I'm just like first bit of cold weather, but we've been single digits, so I think it's a legitimate complaint about the cold weather. But let's get started. I know someone else has joined our room, and I was kind of hoping if they'd be on camera. Rachel, would you like to join us? We'll let Rachel join when she's ready. I will share my screen.
I'm here, sorry. I don't put the camera on whilst it's recording.
That's perfectly fine. Let me share my screen. You can watch it all in good time anyway, Rachel, when we comes back to you in a recording. I've kind of changed our, just bear with me. I've changed our process. I'm going to just hit pause while we do a bit of housekeeping.
Again, I have pretty much every month I have to go for the next probably 3-4 months. I've been about 6 times already. It wasn't my teeth were that bad. It's just that I don't know why they're taking so long, just doing one filling at a time, and horrible. Anyway, that's it. That's why I'm not so happy.
Building their deck and the extension on the house, Daryl. It takes time.
Yeah, that's true.
We get
Anyway, those
windows. So
yeah.
That's good. So, well, welcome and thanks, Olivia. I'm going to check in at a solid 7, and it's very relevant for us because tonight we're actually going to be working on our own reflective practices. So, how are we going to look after ourselves in this space? And thank you for sharing, Belinda. When we're talking about a lived experience, we are humans and we may have direct contact or indirect contact with people who are in that space as well. So it's about staying in the industry, looking after yourself, hearing stories, being okay, and then getting feedback about our style, because while our practices might be the same, that our clients are very different and their stories are all very different. So we have foundational skills and we do all those micro skills and some of our own care skills. And this is our practice standards here. Let me just share my screen. It's come back to us now. We'll see what that looks like. Perfect. I'll bring us all back. Okay. I think we might be right. Just put myself up there. So this is the very first session of this, which is CHCPRP and 003. Reflect on and improve own professional practice. So some of this may be what we discover for ourselves as we reflect, and some might be where someone will give us feedback and we'll go, oh, I didn't know that about myself, or thank you for giving me that feedback. Now what do I do with it? How do we reflect and process on it? Might also be that as we're working with clients, we think we're hitting that mark, but we don't know unless we actually check in with them. It's like, have I got this right? And being okay about asking for that feedback and that process as well. Our peers will often give it to us. We try and catch ourselves like, what is a good day and what isn't a good day, and then what is it that happened to me when I heard that? So being self-aware is really important. We're going to have a look at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats, and then what we know about each other and what we know about ourselves, and then what others know about us and we are yet to learn. So it can be a really challenging, curious and thoughtful space to jump in here. And I'll share and be really honest with you about some of that reflective feedback that I've had to do over the years as well, being frontline 29 years, so, and still working. Let's have a look at acknowledgement to country. Could I have somebody who would like to perhaps read the acknowledgement to country for us?
I'll read it. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hayter Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nations people and acknowledge elders. I'm sorry, the last line is covered. I think it's not
Past, present and emerging.
Past, present and emerging. Yeah.
Thank you, Belinda. It's a really important part of our work. So with our housekeeping cameras on, please, knowing that it's recording. And of course, Rachel, choosing not to be on camera, because that is a self-care move. And there's times on and off where we need to do that. And that's great. I acknowledge that. It's how can I best look after myself when I'm in this space? And there's lots of reasons why we do that. Tonight is very much about that. Microphones on mute so we don't get any background chatter. As well, we're a small group. I think we don't need to put our hands up and say, you know, I'd like to say something. I think if we're in the workplace and we were all sitting in one room, we would know when it would be time for us to step in there. We will take a break, but I'm handing it over to the group, how we're going to structure our class tonight. And then our respectful relationships, keeping our language very on point and specific about the work. When I'm in this space, I like us to work as colleagues rather than that teacher-student relationship, simply because this is what it's going to be like when we start at work. And I think it's always stronger if we step into that space and try that lens on, even if it's only once a week for our classes. No smoking or vaping on camera, but of course you're working from home. And if you need to do those things, then make sure that your camera is off for that. We talk about trigger warnings in a sense that it is a workplace health and safety matter for you, but you may not have a trigger, but you might have an adverse reaction. And it's about assessing, like, wow, that story actually, that cut a little deeper than I thought. That brought something back up for me. This is a safe place to have those discussions, but there's some things that you may not want to discuss. If you think that the conversation is headed somewhere where you're uncomfortable, then please just go off camera and care for yourself. With my team, I like to let them know that if you are still ruminating, thinking about something, a story that's been shared through the day, then please just, I apologize. Please just go and make a call, and also call Lifeline 13 11 14 or First Nation Torres Strait Island people 13 Yarn. And be kind to yourself. We're learning. We're all learning. I'm going to learn something from everyone tonight. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, captions don't catch coughs. I've just read it. So a little bit about me. I'm a regional manager for a youth organisation. I run housing, mental health programs, crisis response, and I sit in the court process every week. So my background also, like Daryl, was in trade. However, I work across several areas, and specifically, I would say what's my primary focus, it is working with young people. But I'm also working with the families and carers, and what Olivia shared about having that specialty area around AOD and knowing what target group she would like to work with. It's really important that we step into that space and go, what would a typical day be like? And what might a story be like when we're in that space? So while I might step away from working frontline from time to time, and I have done, I find that I circle back to that. And I hope for you, as you jump into that space of what is your why, that you find that target group, or you navigate the space around the community service sector and learn as much as you want and enjoy that in a safe way. There are times when a story can land just a little too heavy, which is what we were doing in our housekeeping. And it's about reflecting on your own practice and how your psych is, or your psych ache is as well. So when we decide which target group we want to work with, we refer to that as our demographic. The kind of issues that our clients are going to present to us, that is the psychographic. So we work with both demographic and psychographic. Let's bring everybody back in so we can see some faces. Okay, so language in the sector, you know, it changes. Every now and again, you'll sit in a meeting and you go, oh, okay, we're saying that now, are we? But it's just really I've heard, I'll hear for months, I'll go, oh, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. I'm going, okay, that's what we're doing this month. And then it's like, oh, swings and roundabouts. And I'm going, you know, to me, that's just bureaucracy. That's just trying to normalize or minimize what's actually happening with our clients. I enjoy frontline work. I enjoy very high and complex needs clients, but I know that about myself. I learned that about myself, and I had to go, what is it in that space? How do we look after our own mental health, our own psychological safety when we are a worker? And you might go, I'm doing all the studies, I'm getting my qualifications, I've got my own style developing. I'm doing that in class. I'm working on my role plays. I'm working with my peers in that space. What I'm reading is starting to make sense and it's got somewhere to land. I don't really know what it's going to be like unless I'm actually out there. And that's where work placement comes into it. AOD doesn't have it. So, Belinda, I acknowledge that when you are in that space, that is skill development. That's your practice skill set. You're honing that and finding your place. But we go in with different hats, don't we? So if I go in as a worker, I have a position description, even if it's unpaid. I've got certain tasks I must do, responsibilities I must have, policies and procedures I must follow. They're my guidelines. Then the organisation has their own guidelines, and that's called their service model. So the difference between one service and another service could be as simple as their model. So I work with 12 to 24, and then I work with Gen Y, which is up to 34 years of age. But is this all ages? It can be impacted on alcohol and other drugs. Absolutely, it can. Is it every demographic? It is. Is it every psychographic? It absolutely is. Is it every social economic structure? It absolutely is. Is it every postcode? It absolutely is. So this is something that impacts. It is not dinner table conversation, though. Amazingly, people will have certain conversations about some things. AOD is not usually one of them. Domestic family violence, also not one of them. Sexual assault, also not one of those dinner table conversations. So when you're in this space, it can be really lonely unless you've got those connections with your peers, unless you're watching things, reading, doing some TEDx talks, really doing a deep dive about unpacking it. The AOD, that's the symptom. The what happened to you is the work that you'll do. And in every prison is a victim turned offender. So we're getting into that root cause place of what we're doing. And this unit that you're doing is all about you so that you can have a good understanding on all about the others. So when we do that intake and assessment where we go, everything that you say here is private and confidential. I discuss nothing. The only time I would share anything is if I thought you were at risk, your safety, or someone else's was, then I would need to let my line manager know, or I would have to do something and tell someone because I would want you to be safe. So we start that with every conversation, even if we see a client every single day for the next 10 years. It's like, I want to remind you, each and every time I must have consent from that person I'm working with, and it must be informed consent. I don't get to change my mind. This will be the time that I tell somebody something and I never checked in with that client. It is always their space. So I work for them. They are the driver, and we call that self-determination. So the clicky kind of conversations when people are in there and they talk about it all day, every day, and you go, you know, I'm hearing that. I don't quite feel like I've got that language. I need an interpreter here. It changes anyway. You could just nail it and it'll move on to something else. The core things that you need to make sure that you know are coming from your learning guide and from the assessment work that you're doing. And that never changes. So they are what we call foundation skills. all the other stuff is just the scaffolding around it. You'll pick up bits and pieces. You might go, oh, I really like the way Olivia said that. Oh gosh, Daryl really cut to the core with that. That was great. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it in my invisible bag of tricks. That's how we learn and grow in this space. We get the knowledge, skills, we get the application and the ability, but our own style still has to be developed in that space. So when we talk about icebreakers and checking in, I like to check in because that tells me how everyone's traveling. And if someone says to me, you know, I'm a 3, that to me, that says go softly. And when we're around our colleagues and our peers, we're going to do a check-in. Hey, how are you going? And if there's something not quite right and your intuition, your gut, especially in AOD, plenty of evidence-based data to respond to that. That means you are on alert. Something's not quite right. You can go in and what else? You can ask it a little deeper. What else might be happening here? Or you've said this a few times. Can I circle back to that? Could we maybe look at that? That's where we're going to go. Tonight, it's all about us. So making sure we're okay as we jump into that space. So Are You Okay Day comes up in September, but that started with checking in, and that's what Olivia was doing tonight on a scale of 1 to 10. But sometimes people haven't got the language, and a number crosses many cultures, many education levels, many language competencies, and having capacity. If I said, you know, like 1 to 10, it kind of like helps that person find, I don't know, pause for a moment. What am I? I'm not a 5. I'm more than a 5, less than a 5. We're actually doing reflective practice the moment we do that. We're checking in with ourselves. At the beginning of the day, we check in. So for 29 years, every single day, I have kept a reflection journal. Every single day, even if I've got not much to put in other than my check-in number for the day and my checkout number for the day. But on my page, I have a line down the middle. On one side of that line, it says what was positive and what was negative. Things that went well today, things I could do differently. And then on the bottom, I might put some notes, and I will just say, you know, I was outdoors or I work from home. I didn't sleep as well last night. I skipped meals. I probably had 2 cups of coffee more than I should have. My check-in was 6 and my checkout might be 7. Okay, so it's slight improvement. But if I check out as a 9, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going great. That could be just because I sit in the neurodivergent space and I'm escalated and I can't bring it down. So the number will mean something completely different to you. This is all to do with our self-reflective practices. So I like to do that with our clients, but if I'm going to check in, I like to also check out as well. Did I check out better, the same, or worse? And if it drops, it's like, is that a good drop because I needed to? Or is that actually a drop and I probably need to shake that off? A lot of students will call Lifeline 13, 11, 14 for 2 reasons. 1, to unpack a story that might have had an effect on us. And 2, to be able to get some reflective practice and paraphrasing when you're actually in that space, because every single person that's with Lifeline is a qualified telephone counsellor. So all those micro skills are on show when you're in there. So they love, and I've been a counsellor for 20 years on Lifeline, they absolutely love to get a call from a student that says, I've got conflicting priorities. And sometimes when we're talking about stuff in class, it kind of like sits with me and I can't shake it off. I know the trainer said, if you're still thinking about it 30 minutes later, you probably need to unpack that. But I've been thinking about that all week, you know, and like, I just want to know why am I thinking about it? They will unpack that. And when they're doing that, they're actually demonstrating micro skills to you. So it's like, how did we get there? Gosh, you got me to say more than what I thought I was going to say. And so then you can sit in that space. You're not going to get someone in your local town, pick up that phone, because Lifeline is a national call centre. What they can do if they want to refer you on, if that's what you want, It could be that I just need to juggle my priorities. It can start there. And that could absolutely be what one of your clients comes in and says, I've just got so many things on, I'm struggling making a decision, you know, and they can help you unpack that. When I'm working with a lot of young people, they would call Kids Helpline and they would say to me, it's for babies. I'm not talking to Kids Helpline. It's for little kids. And I said, oh, is it? No, it says up to 12. No, it isn't. So I called them and I just said, look, I'm not stuck. I'm not a parent with a little one. But I work with young people and they said to me, Kids Helpline is for like little kids. So I just wanted to run it past you and just say, who is your target group, what kind of things and stuff like that. And they were great, but they also agreed up to 10, even though we say 12. And in that gap, in that unmet need came in Headspace. In that gap, in that unmet need came in YB Blue, which is a Beyond Blue initiative. So it filled some of those gaps. And if we don't get that feedback from others about our own style or our own service model, then we've got nothing to reflect on. We kind of just think, oh, no one said anything, I must be cool bananas, keep going. So this is a really brave space to jump into. What are the components of this? It can be personality. It can be your lived experience. It is your lens that you see things through. It could be your culture. It could be your education. I don't know if there's a deal breaker for you, and you may not know that about yourself yet either. So we're talking about reflective practice and we're talking about our own self-evaluation. So Man in the Mirror is a program for coexisting needs. So it can be domestic family violence, alcohol and other drugs. Often it is the fuel to anger, or it's the weapon to harm, or it's that escape space. It'll shut down the demons. I get an initial, we know alcohol is a depressant, but we also know that other drugs as well, prescription or non-prescriptive drugs, are an addictive, formed part of it, an addictive imprint that people might have. So I juggle a lot of things, and I used to think that label that sat around that was applied by others was the workaholic. But when you start to understand a neurodivergent space, it's like, well, actually, no, that's just I'm dysregulated and I've got to do a lot of things. So it's with knowledge that we can unpack things as well, but it's being mindful of what makes us tick, and having a healthy relationship with ourselves before we have a healthy professional relationship with our clients. Does that make sense? Does that sit somewhere? Yeah. I won't pick on you because Christine's coming in next week. I don't want to open wounds or anything like that. We're not going to go deep, but we are just going to uncover some of those tools around it. Evaluative feedback is like what others tell us. So feedback I get is, wow, you just got all this energy, bring it down a notch. And I'm going, okay, so thanks for that, because I wasn't aware. So I can do that, whether I verbalize it or not. I'm mindful of my energy around other people as well. So I have been in situations where I've sat in with Olivia and Olivia has been able to bring you down and go, let's do some breathing work, and just make sure that person is in their window of tolerance, and just bring it back down around that, 5 to 7. That's an okay, safe space to be sitting in. And then reflect on that feedback. How are you feeling? And we're doing that with our clients. We need to do that with ourselves. And then what could I do differently? This is what a reflective practice is. So if someone gives us feedback, if it's positive, some of us are comfortable getting that, and some of us are uncomfortable getting that positive feedback. Who can relate to that? Who takes a compliment and goes, yep, absolutely right, I am that person? Or who finds, oh, I don't know, what's that like for you? Belinda, how do you go when someone gives you positive feedback and a compliment?
Usually not too bad, but I often find it difficult to respond in a fully sort of responsive way.
Yeah.
It makes me go shy, and I want to do this rather than say, well, thanks, that's great. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
that.
aware it's
Mm.
happening to you at that time.
Mm.
Would you like to do that differently? This is where we go, evaluative feedback, reflect on feedback, improvement. Where are you in that? Like, are you aware of it and you're evaluating it? When you
Yeah, no, I am aware of it. Yeah. And I can
Yes.
feel when it happens to me.
Okay. And what about if you reflect on that response?
Yeah, I'd like to do it differently. I'd like to be able to, in a sort of in a natural way, say, thanks, that's really great. I really appreciate that feedback.
Sincerely and
Mm.
authentically, so that you don't think, oh, I'm just going to give it a one-liner.
Yeah.
And I've rehearsed that, because that's a disconnect with the
Yeah,
person.
I tend to get shy,
Yeah.
a bit withdrawn, right, rather than responding appropriately.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're in that between reflective and improving.
Mm.
In that stage of it. Okay. Olivia, what about you? How are you when someone gives you a compliment?
I, as we all do, I appreciate getting compliments because it allows me to learn more things about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when responding to them, yeah, I guess I'm quite thankful for receiving them. I don't know if I'm shy about them, but maybe kind of cool about them, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So you hear it, you can take it, it sits with you. How do you respond to that feedback with the other person giving that to you? Or do you feel you don't need to at all?
I feel like I always maybe just thank them for it, and maybe if I can see that in myself, I'll agree with what they've just said, or yeah, then just maybe say, I didn't know that, thank you, kind of that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's a really objective way to look at it as well. That, there's a lot of critical thinking in your conversation right now. It's like, oh, I'm taking that on board. Thanks. Appreciate that. Or, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I'll sit with that. Thanks. So it's like a curiosity as well. That it's like, if you heard something that you didn't know, I think you take it on board and sit with that as well. Clients may often want to give us more negative, but let's stay in the positive. Daryl, how are you when someone gives you a compliment?
Sorry, I had my mic off. Yeah, I sort of a bit like Belinda, I get sort of embarrassed a bit, but also I instantly think, why are they saying that? And I suspect that what's their reasoning, and this is probably my problem, not theirs. Yeah, so I don't deal with it real well, but I have changed over in the recent years. So I do actually, if it's constructive criticism or something like that, I will take that on. If I think, yeah, well, that's pretty much right, I'll rectify it that way. But yeah,
I guess in having a trade background, your foundational knowledge is you often may be there to fix a problem. And so you'll be solution focused anyway. So fault finding, having the resources. I think some of that foundational skill of having a trade background will end up transferring over into this space really well for you. Let's look at the real problem. Let's try and follow it through. It's not that eliminating. It's not that. It's not that. It could be this. Let me test it. Okay, I can see what the problem is, and you have that approach to it. It's personal, and it's a positive. It can sometimes be like, okay, what do you want? Why are you saying that? Kind of what? Yeah. So it could be like a good word, like a little suspicious around it. Just it's not quite clear to you yet. So when someone will say something specifically like, oh, like you're great and that, oh, what is it that you, rather than leave it personal, what is it that you like about how I do that work for you? Like, bringing it back to the skill or the approach that we have in this sector is a good way to keep that boundary in there for yourself as well. So getting them to come back to that, whatever is going on in the left hemisphere of their brain, rather than the right hemisphere where it's abstract and creative. So those repeat foundation practice skills are around us being okay about hearing that back. A great way to find out where is that person coming from with that could be like, oh, what in particular did you like? So when I speak to someone who's written a book and I've really liked their work, I'll just say, I absolutely loved your book. And they'll go, what did you enjoy about it most? And that's the great way to just give that back. And it helps that person have a think about it. Oh gosh, I don't know what my favorite, there were so many. I don't know, I think it was simple. I could read it and it spoke to me. I connected with that character or whatever it is that I'm talking about. I rarely read fiction, so I'm talking, to people not always face to face, but if I read someone's book and it's inspiring, I really feel connected to that person in there. And I like to write reviews and say, this is what I really enjoyed about it, or it helped me with my practice work that I do, or in the clinic, or whatever it is that I'm working in, just to give people that feedback and let them reflect on that feedback. The hard stuff is when we are given, like you say, constructive feedback or corrective feedback. Our clients will do that with us from time to time. It may even be that we sit in that space with other stakeholders and service providers, because we talk about how important it is to network and create alliance circles and wraparound support, and who are all the other people that we're going to bring in. Belinda saying, hey, to come into that space. And so that's all collaboration. It's like, oh, we're putting insight over here. Yes, there are the clients, but it might also be some workers. They're sharing a story. And so you sort of think about that and you go, all right, that's great when we're all working on a common goal, but we can see that people will struggle from time to time, day to day, session to session, or when we jump into a space. So one hat I might wear is when I go in as an advocate, that is not often viewed in a way that people have, even though your intention is there to advocate on behalf of a vulnerable person who may not have the capacity to self-advocate, or that you have that knowledge, that subject matter expert in that space, and someone might bring you in. So, like a lawyer will go, oh, well, I want her in there. This is a young, vulnerable person. They'll be the person that I want sitting in there. I'm not quite sure that the best interests of the clients are being in here. We just need to have an advocate in that space. So an advocate acts on behalf of the first person, but you're not welcome in a lot of conversations. You are welcome by your clients, but you're not welcome by some other people in that space. So we have to be kind of resilient and have a bit of agility in there as well, and not take it personally. That's why it's good to have that reflective space. Has anyone had to go in there and be the voice for somebody else any time? Yeah. How did that go, Belinda?
I spent 20 years working in high schools for kids with disabilities, and I often took them to vocational type courses and that sort of thing, and often with mainstream students. And I was forever just clearing the space for the kids to be able to enjoy it and get the same amount of education out of it as the other kids.
Yeah, to give them access and equity in that space. So that's the role of an advocate, and holding space. Peer-to-peer, that can be really good. And it takes a bit to navigate it so that those who are running those programs see you as part of their support team rather than there to critique. And that, so, but we have to be mindful that they may not welcome you in initially because they're uncertain what they don't know until we can clarify that. And especially if I write notes, it's like, oh, what are you writing about? Is this like a report on me or something? So we have to make sure that our energy is right, our intention is right, but know ourselves well enough. It's like, how do others perceive me when I walk into that space? Yeah. Yeah.
They often didn't necessarily want another adult in their watching what they were doing.
Okay. Yeah. Because that represents what, do you think?
I don't know, interference possibly.
Accountability, that's what they don't want.
Okay, yeah, could be that too, Rachel. Yeah. Yeah. So
I think they, my experience has been that they often would leave a child with a disability sort of sitting in the background and not really involved, or they just didn't have the skills.
yes.
And having someone else in there, I think probably was a little bit threatening sometimes, or a bit inconvenient, or it made them work harder.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah, you're right. They're on show. Can't hide. Rachel's right. You know, there's accountability. It's like, yeah, you're being assessed. You're being evaluated. You're being monitored. Someone's looking at you, not necessarily judging, but everything we do is measurable. And it's a practice skill. So it's a space that we need to just make sure our energy is right when we go in. But we only have to think win-win. We're not in control of how the other person perceives that. So if we go in with the correct intention, what they do with that is still up to them, not up to us. And that's how we stay in our boundary and know about ourselves, being comfortable in our own skin when we're in there.
Well, they didn't know necessarily that I was going in there.
Yes.
And myself being quite nervous and going, right, okay, how do I best fit in here? This is their program,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, when you go into a space with NDIS children and you're in prep, and they're doing their thing, and how that energy unpacks. It's like if they're lying on the floor, I'll lie on the floor. And so the other kids kind of get it. But if I start writing notes for the pediatrician, then the teachers can be quite suspicious. And it's like, what are you writing? And I'll go, oh, look, here's all this. And I'll show them. I go, this is the amazing work in this class. I love the culture. So it's, what is it about it that I like? So I have to be in that headspace when I'm there. I know that about myself before I go in, that sometimes I'm here in court energy on, and people can read that, whereas I can't have that same energy when I go into a prep classroom where overworked, overwhelmed teachers, and they've got all of these, lots of energy happening in there, and they've got a curriculum to run and things like that, to be helpful, but also be really mindful when you walk in and you see that all the other children's art is hanging up, and the child that you're working with, there is no art with their name on. I notice that, and that 6-year-old notices that as well. So it's about getting into that space and then making sure that I write their name and ask, where do we hang the paintings and things like that. And it's just a little bit, but if a school has a structure and it's only 15 hours a week out of the whole time that they're there, that they get that one-on-one person, it can often be like, oh, well, they do that job, rather than it's that inclusive approach. And
I would often take kids who are 14 or 15 to do Cert 1s and 2s in hospitality and that sort of thing. So they'd be in a big kitchen, and there'd be sharp implements and various things like this, and other mainstream kids. And I could see the difference between what the kids were allowed to do, what they were encouraged to do, that sort of thing. And I would step in and insist that they do all the same things, and learn how to use the knives, and learn how to put the pot on the stove and take it off, and do exactly all the same things. And it did make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you're aware of it. And so we look at how do we evaluate that feedback, whether it's spoken or considered, how we read the room, then reflect on that feedback, and then how can I improve that to make sure that that is a safe space for everybody, even the space where they are the people who are running the program. So if I work hard on that while I'm helping the client, I've got a better chance that when I leave that space that the client's going to be well looked after, and I'll shift the dynamics of how their lens is over that client when I'm not around all the time. I have to leave an imprint behind me when I'm there, and it has to be about the young person who will go, no, this feels better, that doesn't feel good, especially if you're non-verbal in that space. So thank you for that, Belinda, because that brings it into, you know, I'm there, I'm doing this, but I'm always, others are evaluating me. Some may share that, I might sense that. Some can be positive and some can be negative. Things I could do better or differently, and we move into that space of how can I improve that. Thank you. So we analyse our work. We think of ways to improve. We look at our strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes a strength too much can be a weakness. So we need to be aware of that. Like, oh, they're really good at that. Okay. Is that always something that we need to have in that space when we're in a group and we're collaborating? Can it be where I look at someone who isn't and I go, I need to maybe bring myself back into that middle a little? That's the lens I might work on. Or if I go, you know, I wish I'd said that, but I think about it afterwards, then that'd be something, an area for us to improve. So we're analysing and self-reflecting. So we look at different perspectives, and that comes from lots of different things. What might be different about just us in this space right now? You too, Rachel, I'm including you. So what do you think? Let's jump out for a second and have a look at what we look like here. Let's practice this skill. In this particular exercise, let's try this on for size. Okay, we did a meet and greet when we jumped in. Rachel, we did a meet and greet. Where do we live and what's our why when we first started? So when we're in this space, we've heard us a little bit. We've done a bit of sharing in here. What would be your first impression of somebody? And this is safe. This is absolutely a safe space. But when we meet someone for the first time, it's been said that it takes 45 seconds to make a first impression. It only takes a few minutes to make it lasting, and it can take years to undo that. So let's reflect on that for a moment. What do I know about myself? What do others know about me? What do others know about me that I don't know? What don't others know? And what don't I know? So that's the space that we're in when we're doing reflective practice. I know this about myself. Or if someone tells you something and it's news to you, it'd be like, I did not know that. Is that how that came across? Because we can be objective, curious even about in that reflecting, improving space. So I'm open. I'll start. How's that? Safe. I'm going to, Olivia, I'm going to use you as my person I'm going to talk about because I have met you before. But in this reflective space, let me tell you what I thought my first impression was about you. I thought you were shy and a very good listener until I started to work with you a little bit more. And I've seen you in role plays and I've seen you in group dynamics. And I know that that first impression wasn't accurate. So that's the lens, you know, that's our reflection about somebody. So that is like what I don't yet know about you. That's that space. So you may, I don't know, or can I ask you, have you ever had anyone say to you, Olivia's really quiet and shy?
Yeah, I think I probably have.
Okay. And what do you think about that as a first impression when I share that with you?
I can definitely see that. I am a bit more quiet and appear to be a bit more nervous around people that I haven't met or don't really know all that well. But then once I get to know people, I really come out of my shell and can be quite a different person.
Okay, great. All right. Reflective practice. There we go. That's it in action. So, Daryl, what would you think people would say about you if we're not around? What do you think their first impression would be of you? And do you think that would be accurate?
That's a good question. Yeah, I've always had a problem with that. Like, I've, everyone really seems to take me, I feel, wrong when they first meet me until they get to know me and then they realise that they're wrong. Does that make any sense?
It does. That there was more to you than what they originally thought.
Yeah, and I don't class myself as a bad person or anything like that, but yeah, I don't know whether it's just I get shy, I think, and I get really nervous when I meet new people, so I don't come across well straight off. Like it takes me a while, like sort of like Olivia has just said, that it takes me a while to get comfortable with people. When I get to know them, then I just open up and I'm fine.
Right. And yet I heard you say other people open up to you.
Yeah, once I relax, they tend to,
Ah,
yeah, and you've probably got better at that over the years.
but when you're more relaxed, other
Yeah,
people are
for
treating
sure.
really
Yeah,
well to you. Great
yeah.
reflection. Great
Mm,
reflection there. Well done. Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Belinda, what do you think? What do you think people's first impression is of you, and do you think that's accurate?
When I'm nervous, I'm quite twitchy, high energy, a bit talkative. I have to be very aware not to jump in and talk over people, that sort of thing. Once I relax, once I get to know people a bit better, I calm right down. Then I think I become much more aware of what's going on and how I'm affecting people.
So I'm hearing when we get to know people and people get to know us, when we're in a calm, more relaxed state, we step forward and we're comfortable and other people are comfortable with us as well. So this is great reflection. Rachel, would you have anything to contribute from where you are now?
No, I've just got a sick child coming and going in the background, so
It's okay.
yeah.
How did you think that reflection was with the other people? Could you resonate with some of that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's quite interesting how different people their first impression of somebody can be different. Different people will have different perceptions of people and whatever as well. That I find that quite interesting.
And you can hear don't judge a book by its cover and things that we've got all these lenses that we have as a filter before we jump in there and do that. So in particular with our clients, people may see something and then they try and make sense of it, and they make sense of it with the toolkit, the culture, the lens that they work with. I would see the same thing and I might see it completely differently because I have got a different toolkit and a different lens. That's all it is. It's not right or wrong. I don't need to correct people. It's like, I actually know the story behind that person. It makes sense to me when I'm working with that. So when we're in this space and we want to do this for other people, we have to be aware of how are we in this space and how others may perceive us as well. But not only that, how we are looking after ourselves when we're in that energy of other people and being really mindful. It can get quite stressful, trying to be there and find your center when you're in that space. So I've got almost 7:10. And I would like to just at this moment just discuss with the group. So I'll go on pause and we'll be straight back. Some tasks. Great, so welcome back, and we had a slightly longer break, but it'll be the only one that we have for tonight. So we're going to be doing a practical skill around our reflective practice. And as you jump in, if you've got paper, pen, or you're really good at remembering, you're all going to jump into this breakout room, and you need to be able to speak about something. So in the direct message, I'm going to give you your stepping off something. We started on it a little bit. Belinda. And Daryl. I gave that to you, Belinda, did I?
Yep.
Okay. Right, now I have to give you get a choice, Belinda, and you can pick either of those. I think you've already answered that one. This one's a good one. You got that, Daryl? There's absolutely nothing right or wrong with this. Okay, this is just reflection. And Rachel, I will put this one there for you. Everybody's got a stepping off point. Okay. Great. So I'm going to put everyone in a breakout room. Are we all good? Thumbs up. 15 minutes. So how are we going to frame this? It's like, I would like to talk about this, and that's your stepping off. And from there, get other people's feedback around that. Just the group that you're in. What's happening for you there? What do you think that is about? Okay, and then reflect. So get that feedback from the others, and then reflect on that. Is that something, yep, that makes sense, or I thought it was that, or I had not looked at it like that. and then identify what you might do if you were motivated to or had the appetite to go down there, what you might do differently. So just those 3 steps to know it or hear it. So you've already got that knowledge when you go in. You're going to step off from this. You're going to get some feedback, which is something you'll reflect upon. And then you're going to sit with that with your group and have it as you go around. And then you're going to think, I think how I'll approach that would be this. I could improve on that if I did this and this, or I think I can leave them with that. I think I'm comfortable in this space for the time being. It may be something that you don't want to, but just take that on board. It's not about right or wrong. It's not corrective feedback. It's just another lens over what you're saying. So you've got your stepping off point, and then you've got to say, and this is why. Or this is what is happening for me. Or what you see in others. Why do you think that is? Okay, so I will hit pause. That's great. How did you go? Enough time? No. We can bring it back out into this space and you can unpack it here. How does that sound as we go through that? That's also great reflective. How did you find the stepping off point? Was that a hard one to do?
No, I reckon it was quite easy to get the conversation started and then voicing what, unfortunately, well, it was actually just me that spoke, but I took up too much time. But it was good. I felt like a good question to start off and then say, you know, this is what I think of it. And then leading into like, what does everyone else think about that? So I thought it was good.
Great. Okay, so let's unpack a little bit of that. So Olivia, yours was, are there certain types of people that make you feel comfortable? What some of the feedback that you got and input from others?
Mine was, the others said, sorry, to not really let what they've said to you really affect you. Like for the people, makes it a bit hard to explain, the people that make me uncomfortable are people that don't really show an interest in me or critique everything that I'm talking about. So just to, you know, if they say something bad about me, or not me, sorry, what I'm talking about, just to kind of like not let it affect me, stick to my ground, not let it change my thoughts on something or what I'm planning on doing, and to role model to them me. So if I'm someone that really wants to let people have attention and like talk and then discuss what they were talking about and showing an interest, role model that back to them, show them interest in what they're talking about, give them attention, and maybe it might make them a bit more like me, like that, in that kind of.
Like the role modeling word, I think that's a good language. Yeah, it's not about compare or compete. For others, let them get to know and just model that. That's good. That's a really safe way to come at that. Okay. Anybody else want to add to what Olivia was stepping off from?
What else did we talk about? I think we also talked about not necessarily needing to say anything, but making it an internal strength rather than.
Yeah. Okay.
So letting it go past before it's even affected you, you know.
Yeah, knowing self and holding space for yourself. Okay, well, that's interesting that you say that, and I don't have to pick that up.
Yeah.
Like that. What did you get from that, Daryl?
What did I get from it? Well, it was interesting what Olivia was saying about how you can meet some people and you're talking to them and they've just virtually got no interest in what you're saying at all. It always leads back to them, and it's really frustrating. And how to deal with that is a really hard one. Like to deal with it, I suppose. It depends on whether you're talking about in the workspace or just like socially. If it's socially, I just said I'd kick them up the arse, but you can't do that in the work spot. So I would say if I was in a work situation, I would deal with it diplomatically. Like it's not really my job to judge them in that way. So I would do the professional thing and just do my job basically. If it was socially, like I said, I wouldn't deal with it. I just wouldn't have anything to do with the person at all, you know, like, yeah.
So there's a time and a place in different situations. There might be a certain response or reaction or reflection. Some of that is like, well, you know, are you that important to me? And does that really matter? Will that impact me? In the workplace, we might have another reason to, you know, mediate and be conciliatory, you know, like, and find a meeting of the minds where we might tolerate something more than what we would in our private or personal life.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, so, okay, that's great. And was Rachel in the room? And
yeah, I'm here. So the feedback I like to share with Olivia was about her not letting anybody else have the control to make her feel uncomfortable, and which obviously takes time and comes with age as well. And Belinda used the term, you know, to become thick-skinned, which was good, and kind of like for her to be able to hold her ground and say, well, she knows that these people are going to make her feel uncomfortable, but not letting them be able to do that because she sits comfortable and strong and proud within who she is. She knows that that's the way they are, and not letting them affect the way she perceives herself.
I like that. It's a nice way to round that up. Of course, this is work that we're going to do with others, but this is about self-reflection. So we've got to be there ourselves. We've got to try this on for size as well when we're asking others to do that too. So, okay,
but
great.
I do agree with Daryl. You know, sometimes the old foot up the arse is is also needed. I'm not joking.
There is room for that organic approach, Rachel.
Yeah, it does work.
It became obvious who the parents in the room
It's
were.
a proven method.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll go to Daryl. What do you judge most about people and yourself?
I mean, is that me? Yeah. What did I judge?
Judge about most people and yourself.
I, look, that's hard to say because it opens up a can of worms. Like,
Just like the onion, just a couple of layers, not the whole.
yeah,
It's in the middle. We'll just hit those couple of layers.
yeah. So we're talking about what we were talking about before, like what would I judge that person by? Like what? Yeah. Look, if they're being difficult, I judge them as, again, professional matter. I would say, well, this is a professional setting. I'm not going to think thoughts like you're an idiot or whatever, and I don't want nothing to do with you. In a social setting, that's exactly what I would think. I just don't want anything to do with someone that's got that mentality. Just go away from me, basically. Like I said, in a work setting, it's a different thing. I'm there to do a job, so I wouldn't be judging a person at all, really. I'd be to a degree, but a professional degree. Yeah. And what was the other question?
What do you judge most about yourself?
Myself, probably I have in a social setting, I've got to separate the two from work, because in a social setting, I don't have tolerance for people that are annoying. That's probably a fault of my own. I don't know, but I judge people pretty quickly, and I mean, there's got to be a good warrant for it too. I'm not just going to say, oh, I don't like you because your hair's long or you're different culture to me or whatever. I accept anybody, but if they want to be a pain in the backside, I'm not going to accept that and deal with them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But like I said, in a work setting, it's totally different. That's my job, so I've got to act professionally. So
what I hear is really good boundaries, and a little bit of like what Rachel was referring to, or perhaps Belinda, you might have said about having thick skin. I see that as an appropriate armor, that you only allow a certain bit of information to come in certain situations when it's you and in your own setting, in your own terms. Then you be you, and you can speak freely in that space. And in the workplace, we have professional boundaries. We stay inside ours, and we like others to stay within theirs as well. So I think I think that's a good reflection. It seems to me that it depends on the setting, the circumstances, but when it calls for a professional practice, you totally know you're in that space and you've got good ownership over that, and you would approach that differently. But in another setting, if there was something that was bothering you, you may speak more freely. Yeah. Would
thank
that
you.
be a summary around kind of what you're thinking?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yep. No.
you're
Thanks,
not
Vicky.
that can't take Daryl anywhere person. It's
No, no, I'm usually pretty easy to get along with.
You can take Daryl to work, you can take him to a
Yeah.
barbie, you can,
Yeah.
Okay, some people have no control over that. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter where they are. No filter happening in there. It's like they can see the words forming in their mind and coming out their mouth before they can stop those words and bring them back in again. So you've got control over that. Self-control, self-reflection. It's an awareness, about yourself. Well done. It's great. Okay, Belinda, what were you working on?
My
one did you choose?
my jumping off spot was, how do you think people perceive you? Like Daryl, it has to be separated depending on the environment very much. When I'm not at work, I spend a lot of time with people that I've met through AA and NA. So these are people who have heard all my deepest, darkest secrets standing at the front of the room, public confession. They know me pretty well, and I'm normally I'm very ADHD. I bounce all over the place. I talk loudly. I throw myself at people. I'm often way too much, and very happy to be told that I am, so. But at work, I often have the attitude, what other people's perceptions of me are none of my business. So I try to keep it really professional. I try to keep it contained. I've had to work hard at that. Working in rooms of kids with autism and whatnot, I learned pretty quickly to contain all of that, and only show or express what is strictly necessary. So generally in those professional environments, I try not to think too much about what people think of me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Okay. Is that hard work for you to be
Yep.
in both of those? Yeah. Does that take a lot of energy to manage that
Yep.
space for you? Yeah. Yeah. I was curious about that. So it's a conscious effort to manage that when you're in those settings and know that that's better for you if you do, and better for others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's
I've had to work hard at that. I've done a lot of work with people, and that's taken a great deal of self-reflection over the years and practice.
Yeah.
And I love this mute button because it reminds me, I turn it off and it reminds me that I'm not supposed to be talking.
I love that acronym, by the way. Wait, why am I talking?
Mm.
It's a good one.
Mm.
Rachel, would you like to share?
No, I'm right, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, so thanks for contributing to everybody as well. So this is what we said, start with your truth, and I gave you your stepping off point. Where you took that was entirely up to you. I heard self-reflection, I heard boundaries, I heard self-awareness, I heard deliberate intention to be working in that, and I heard pondering. Yeah, so I guess it could be that. That's what I heard. Then it was getting some feedback around that, and it's taking that, processing it, and percolating on that. It's like, I might give that some more thought. Leave that one with me. We don't have to come up with answers straight away, nor do our clients. But it's like, I want to just float something out there. So even when I asked Belinda a question and I was curious, I still asked permission. Could I? I got consent first. Belinda could say, I don't want to answer that question. I'd rather you didn't. Same as Rachel, comfortable in her skin to be able to say, I'd rather not. I'm good. Thanks. So that's knowing self, and then being okay where others are about how they perceive us to be. So we got some feedback on what we did. And then what might be, what would you do differently, if anything at all? Belinda, it sounds to me like you did identify to do something different or modify or improve or make that work better for you so that you got that back under control for yourself. Is that fair to think that maybe you did do things differently because you acknowledged and recognized and wanted it to have a different impact on you physically and emotionally? And was that a conscious effort?
It was very much a conscious effort. Yeah. And it started with it all being pointed out, in my first year of working in schools.
Okay.
I was setting kids off. I wasn't a positive force in the classroom, but I wanted to be there. And that was my motivation. I loved it. And I wanted to be there because I had such a terrible experience as a student, so
you didn't want to get in your own way of
yeah.
getting to that thing that you really wanted to do.
So I learned as an adult how to be a great student. The sort of student I wanted to be, but how to sit still and how to listen properly and do reflective listening and how to, and eventually I went off and studied and did it all properly.
Right. And that's your tool kit, isn't it? Draw on that. I can draw on that. I know it's fun. I've got the right tool for that job. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, if I leave that alone, I'm thinking of Daryl like a plumber. I could do this, I could do that. I'll fault find it. Great reflective practice strategies in there anyway, because there's a trade fault finder, or even putting something in that's brand new, it not quite looking the way, or it is working perfectly first time, that's a different kind of a thing. But not everything works perfectly the first time. So then it's like, oh, hold on, I might have to come at this another way. So, which is great. Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's good. We're going to do another breakout room, but I'm going to just run through this for us. We're just going to unpack some of this now about what was it that we just did. Bring everybody back. Okay, show video panel. There we are. Great. Hide that one. Okay, so just having a look. I might just bring us back here. All right. We looked at different perspectives. We envisioned a new solution. That's where we do our contemplation. Like you, Belinda, it's sitting in the bottom of that page. If I shut up, it'll go away. We looked at reflection, which is in that box, in that circle, sorry, the sphere, and the monitoring, and then how all of those things cross over and are interlinked. That's how we do our self-evaluation. We take in what others are saying, think about possibly a new solution, reflect on that. Do I want it? Yes or no? Choice. And then we monitor, how is that working? Am I getting a better outcome, a better result? We work out the formula for that, which is feedback plus self-reflection equals improved practice. And here's the cycle. I won't play that recording because that will come to you in your own email when we send this out. So we've done our class discussion, we're ahead, but I wanted to play in this space here. I'm going to give you a scenario that will be the client's point and stepping off point for self-reflection. And to do that, here is our toolkit. I want you to frame it. We won't do that. I want you to frame it around a SWOT analysis, and the SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. So a strength is what do you do well, and you need to be able to do that for your client. A weakness is what could you do better? A threat is what obstacles exist. That could be something that's out of our control or something that is in our control, or it could be we're that obstacle in our own way. It's my fear that's stopping me. It's my self-doubt. It's my lack of confidence. It's whatever. Or my belief system. Opportunities. What strengths can you turn into opportunities? Now, I started off tonight saying that something that is a strength and too much of it can be a weakness. So if we go into a room and we're absolutely vibrant and we've got to join a team and we're there and we're better at talking and we're quick at thinking and we've done all the prep and everything like that, that doesn't allow room for other people to step into that space. When we're working autonomously, it is a good fit. When we're in a team environment, we're part of a team or a case conferencing group, that being able to speak fluently, having great ideas, really strong advocate in that space, that can actually be a weakness if we don't read the room properly and consider, when I come in here, I have to be aware if there's 5 people, there'll be 5 conversations, and I will make sure that I just take 1/5 of that space. That's also self-reflection and a mindfulness around it and improving. That's a practice skill. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go and apply a SWOT analysis for somebody who comes in and speaks to you and they are filled with self-doubt. They studied, had an amazing job, really loved it. They had a new CEO come in and it just did not click. They started to dislike going to work when they had really enjoyed it. They studied for years and finally got their dream gig. But the new CEO that came in had a completely different style and gave a lot of corrective feedback. They reflected on it, they took it personally, and then they got stuck with what they could do with the improvements because everything they tried did not land where they thought it would land. So now they've left that job, that no longer being kept in there. Doesn't matter whether they left or the other person said, you know, it's time for you to go. That's not the point of this case. The point of this case is this person is stuck with a negative experience, and they aren't able to problem solve or shake it off enough because they've been going for other job interviews. They're fully aware that that person is not giving them a positive reference, though they have other referees, but they're stuck with that, still in that injustice. They're still back in that moment, and they're trying to move forward, and their move forward is get another job. But there could be a threat or an obstacle in the way. So I want you to use this model, this framework model. Let's call her Tracy. And I want you to hear Tracy's story, and Tracy has given you all of this information. Tracy is sitting in the circle with you. So you're forming a circle when you go in the breakout room. The circle's wide enough. Tracy isn't in the middle, but we're talking about Tracy in our group. So what I want you to do is each of you, and this is for you to jump into this space, not me, to somebody pick up those strengths and then unpack them and discuss it. Somebody will take charge of the weaknesses, and then you will all discuss it and work through that. Then you'll move to what would be in the way, what could be some potential obstacles or what you think you heard from Tracy, and then what might be the opportunities. And that's what we're going to come out of the breakout room with. So there are 4 of you, and I want you to each decide when you go into that space, or one person decide and delegate. Someone will do the strengths, someone will do the weaknesses, someone will do the threats, and someone will do the opportunities. And I want you to come back with acknowledging the strength, if that is your role. And then the other person acknowledging the weakness, that will be your role. The other, the threat, and the other, the opportunities. However, reflect on that strength and then make a recommendations of what could be an improvement just from the strength, and then just from the weakness, and just from the perspective of the threats, and just from the perspective of the opportunities. We're each going to do the full process of that reflection, and then we're going, like, identify what it is, then do the reflection equals the improvement because we've done the reflective work. Okay, does that sound okay? Got that? So I'll pause now before we go into the breakout room. That's great. Enough time?
Yes.
Good, good. That's brilliant. Okay, sorry, I'm back on. Yep, I'm here. Okay, wonderful. Great. Has anyone ever done a SWOT analysis before?
Yeah, I have.
Great. Okay, so it's familiar territory, which is really good. But it's something that we do, like, for ourselves as workers, to make sure that we look after our own biases, take care of ourselves, and we're in this space. So it's strength-based for us. But when we apply it for our clients, it makes sure that we haven't just pigeonholed them and put them in somewhere. Oh, here's what your problem is, and go straight to the solution. We're actually helping them do some of that reflective practice with themselves. So who was doing strengths?
Well, we kind of did it all together as a group, and I wrote it down. So if people don't mind, I'll
be spokesperson.
Yeah, I'll be spokesperson.
Love
That's
it.
cool.
Thanks, Belinda. Where you go.
Okay, so strengths were that she loved her work, that she kept trying, that she listened to the CEO and tried to adapt. So she tried not to take it on and to keep going forward. She wanted to do what the CEO was asking. That's sort of where we got to on strengths. Weaknesses was the self-doubt that crept in. So she didn't have the tools she needed to stop that from taking over and ruining her love of the job and colouring her perception of what she was doing and who she was and whatnot. The opportunities were that she may now find another job she loves. She may be able to find something different and grow in her skills. She has the opportunity to learn to be resilient and the opportunity to develop confidence and to find out what else is out there that she might enjoy. She might want to study instead. It opens up the door for all kinds of things. Threats were the doubts, feeling as though it might repeat, like having lost that confidence. Is she now just putting herself in the position where it's going to happen again? So it kind of erodes the work confidence. And that's sort of where we got to with threats.
That's great. So with all of that together, as you've unpacked her, done the reflection around her, what would be the areas for improvement? It seems like it's around the opportunities and the threats, the weaknesses and the strengths. It seems if we're looking in those spaces, which areas could we have a look at for improvement? If you had to bring it down to what is the root cause and then what would be the best point of action from here?
I would say the root of it all is that it eroded the love of what she was doing. And everything kind of went from there. I would say that that would be the biggest sort of weakness, I guess. So the opportunity is to develop that back again, to find something else that she likes, or to maybe find another organisation that she fits into in a better way, and to work on that that confidence so that it doesn't erode again in the same way.
That's great. Great way to unpack that, because it goes to her and says, when did you feel really good about what you were? Well, I liked it when I had a different boss. What was it you liked about that CEO? Okay, wonder if we could find that somewhere else. All the things that made that work. What was it you liked about working with the other CEO? Really being able to drill down on what it is. You're right, it is about the root cause. It's like it seemed important to be loving what she did. She worked really hard and that was the reward, and that had been taken away. And the kind of work that we're doing and unpacking there is around grief and loss. That's actually where we're going to drill down. So that was great. Absolutely fantastic. Really, how did that feel? Did that fit okay, doing a bit about yourself and then taking that and then moving that over to your client? Did that feel okay?
Yep.
Good. Okay. So for our own self-care, to work in the sector, and for the care of others so that we don't have that bias or our own lens gets in the way, it's important that we have professional supervision, ongoing learning. The most powerful tool for us is a reflection journal with our work. So even when you study, and what I'd like you to do, and let Christina, sorry, guide you on this, is start for the week, if you're not already doing this, a reflection journal, just 7 days. What went well? What would I do differently? Just check in with yourself. I'm a 2, I'm check out in the day. I'm an 8, whatever that looks like. Just get into the practice of a self-reflection journal. Some stepping off points are about, what went well, what could I do differently? The reason why I find it such a powerful tool, and a lot of other practitioners do, is that as we look back, we can see a pattern in ourselves. And as we apply that for our clients, we can see it in others. Something starts to formulate, like you drilled down and got the root cause there. And then I went into fit for purpose counselling. What type of counselling? What approach will we come at? It's the loss of something. And for us to do that work around our clients and get into that hope and healing space, we have to be able to identify what happened to you, what that really was there, and then we can help them find it for themselves. What was great about that? What got in the way of that? When did it feel good? And to help them unpack all of that as well. It's good for us to do for ourselves so that we're sustainable and we don't have burnout or brownout, whatever. Just a little bit of a bad day and another bad day and then another bad day and another bad day. It's cumulative, and if you've heard the expression the body keeps score, it absolutely leaves an imprint on us. How do we shake that off? Your self-reflection journal parks it somewhere else, outside of you, outside of your mind, outside of your body, and it just keeps that boundary in place. Let me have a little bit of a look at this. Okay, well, that was its strength, that was its weakness, that's its opportunity and threat. So if you get, even if it's a really small problem, give it a good old SWOT analysis and see what you come up with there, and do a check-in with yourself and a check-out. Before you leave, can I just ask you to give me a number between 1 and 10 as you check out tonight? Daryl, want to pick a number between 1 and 10? 1, I'm here. Just 10, I'm so happy. I don't think we should finish tonight. We should keep going.
Okay. I'll go 7.
7, safe.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Well, I'm
What was your
happy,
check-in?
but I think I've had enough for tonight.
Yeah. What was your check-in number on self-reflection? What do you think you came in at, and now you're at a 7?
I was at 4 because I'd been to the dentist. Is that what you meant?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, but that's over now. I should be over it really, because I'd be worse if it was tomorrow I was going. But it was today I went, so I should get over it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you're going to take yourself there and not let it be an obstacle and improve on it. Well done, you.
Yeah.
Olivia, what are you checking out as tonight?
I'm checking out as an 8. I checked in as a 7 because I was cold, but I've warmed up now, so
Excellent.
8.
Listen to all these external influences. See, Rachel, thanks for coming in tonight. Brilliant. Belinda, what are you checking out as?
I'm checking out as an 8. I
Yep.
checked in as an 8.
Great.
I had a great day, and I'm about to watch a movie and eat ice cream. So,
Oh, excellent self-care. Thank you so much for having me in tonight. I'll just hit pause here. Rachel said good night, and that was great. I'd like you to practice some of these skills. I just wanted to wrap up our night and finish up session 1 for Christina, because she'll be back here with you next week. So we went into the breakout room with a strategy, sitting around a scenario for a client, something that had happened in the past, but it was still leaving a bit of residue, and an imprint for them. And then collectively, everyone jumped in and did some case conferencing around bringing out this, using this tool of a SWOT analysis, which was a great way to go, and some really good strategies in there and opportunities recognised. So if we just jump back to this, when we're working on strengths and weaknesses, they are the internal factors, and the group got straight to the root cause very easily. The area of managing those is around weaknesses and threats, needing they have to be managed. And then the external factors could be something outside of someone's control. And that could be, I need to look elsewhere outside of my issue, what I'm dealing with. And then maybe I can work on what might be another opportunity out there. And then to build on all of these things, they all play an integral part in how we dissect it. So we could be stuck in one of those quadrants there, but we keep moving on that and building on that, and we'll be able to overcome those things. So it's about improving selves and then finding the tools and show other people how to do that. Allow yourself time, quiet space to be reflective and be relaxed in that space. And then make sure that you focus on any of the achievements. Look, that was a better day. You know, I checked in as a 4. I'm checking out as a 7. I know what it was that was bothering me, and I did some thinking around it and some reflection, and I'm going to work on the improving of my mindset or the issue, which is great. So staying in that strength base, which is what we will do for our clients. We looked at the different values, beliefs, and the behaviors around it, like what would be an appropriate practice. We talked about professional boundaries and how we're in that space as well. And then how we would need to comply with the legislation, which of course is professional supervision. Us as a worker, making sure that we've got those boundaries in place and we don't step outside of those as well. But the workplace health and safety that sits there, we know our demographic, and then we look at the psychographic, but we need to know our demographic as a worker, and then what's the psychographic of being a worker in that space, especially in AOD, where we're dealing with very high and complex issues. And then what are the individual job requirements for us as a worker as we navigate our day, our caseload, our space, and how we feel about our work. So we did our self-awareness exercise. We jumped into the breakout room. There was giving and receiving a feedback. There's experiencing both roles, having a look at, okay, yep, what went well, what could be done differently, and some constructive criticism, which I think somebody used and said that they can take that on board and pull out those bits and pieces that they own. Otherwise, I can leave the other with you there. And then we brought that back. What are some of the challenges? Fitting this into a work schedule. So it's like, I just want to bounce something past you. It's been sitting on my mind. Fear of negative criticism and not bringing it up, being okay about it. I don't know if anyone embraces that, but it's just, okay, I want to hear what you've got to say, but I don't have to take it on board. That takes resilience and agility in that space and knowing yourself. And then letting go of the idea that you are superior if you are applying this with our clients in that space, or if you're giving someone that feedback, it's like, you aren't the all-knowing, it's just this is a discovery. That's the space to come from. Seek and reflect on feedback and be open to that. Get it from a variety of sources, your peers, people that you trust, clients. You know, how is that going? Have we been able to make some progress while we've been together today? Look, we're reviewing your plan. How is that working for you? Is there anything there that we could have a look at, or you want me to do differently, or come at it another way? Well, it really annoys me that you do this. Okay, well, what does that look like if I was doing it? Okay, give me that feedback and take that, and then provide your own. If you're not getting it elsewhere, but something is telling you it's just a little off center, try and bring it back on. Reflect, have a look at it through a SWOT analysis if you need to. And then writing about your feedback, and that's your self-reflection journal. So reflection equals insight, which is incredible. Seek and reflect on that feedback. I like it because it gives me patterns. Oh, I know why I was that, because I hadn't slept properly, or I drank too much coffee, or I had, look at all the things that I did. I had way too many balls in the air. Of course, I had competing priorities. Of course, I had left that with that paralysis that kicks in there from time to time, which can be viewed as avoidance, or it can be if you look at it with reflection and go, I don't want to do it, so I'm just going to ignore it being there. So this is about knowing self as we start to work with others, and then interpreting what is really going on. What is the root cause here? What am I missing here? And then how you will use that, and then what you learned as well with that. Okay, I'll have to think about that. That's great. Thanks for that. Have a think about what the improvements are and give them a go. Put some action around that. What's the objective? What do I want to have this look like? What would that look like if I had it right? When we're asking our clients, what if we tried it like this? How would that work for you? Skills and knowledge. Grow and continue to learn. A quality improvement plan if we're looking at our own practice standards and the organisation, if we all have this mindset, identify any gaps and then seek new information if the plan isn't working. And we do that when we're doing an individual support plan with our client. Make sure that you've got some great people to bounce things around, develop those contacts, use the contacts, and that's part of your professional practice. So in the workplace, we will refer to coming together, which is what you guys were doing. You were stepping off from reflective practice, but you were doing what we call a COP. And a COP is a community of practice, which means you pick up a particular professional standards practice, and together you work with that collaboratively as improving your practice. And that's our community of practice. We'll get together, we'll pick an area, and we'll start building on that. And that makes a great workplace, a great culture, but it also makes a great worker, because you may work on your own quite a lot, or everyone may be really busy. There may not be a formal structure for this in the workplace. So we have to create it for ourselves rather than look out for others. What would be missing? What is that gap? Who can I bring into this space to help me and grow in my professional practice standards? Clarify what your career goals are, which is going back to your why you're doing the study. Identify who is going to support you. Where will I get that from? Who are your local network people I can just contact? That doesn't always have to be face-to-face. And then what approach am I going to take? I'm going to pace myself, or look, this has got a sense of urgency. I've just elevated that and made it a priority of need. This is how we work with our clients. And we do this with our peers and our wider stakeholders. Here's some resources. Headspace, slightly younger group. Autism Queensland, are really helpful in that neurodivergent area. And then Black Dog Institute, which is around depression and anxiety, both one side of the same coin. Knowing that substances have all of those triggers inside them, because it's a chemical reaction in our body. We're looking for that because it actually fills a need, the same as any other dopamine hit that we want to have. Our clients are working in that space, and of course, bedding down, it's like the addiction stays, the predisposition to that stays. So rather than that mindset of, which was once thought, break a habit, we don't. We acknowledge it and we put it there. We can reflect on that. However, we replace that habit with a better choice, healthier habit with balance. And that's the only thing, is we've just got the balance wrong, and we're using the wrong resources to do a job, and it's not giving us the correct outcome that we're after. Black Dog's Instit, which is your institution. Mental Health Professionals Network, which is great. I belong to Queensland Alliance of Mental Health. There's NEMI. There's quite a few if we look at where we are in Australia. The Mental Health Professional Network can provide free membership and access to webinars as part of professional development. And so does Community Door. If you go there, there's quite a lot of knowledge and information. That ongoing professional development, we don't need to wait for an employer or starting work for us to be building on in that space. Develop a plan when we're dealing with something we need to reflect on, whether it's something about ways we can improve or what we're actually working on a problem. Sometimes we may have to unpack it a little deeper, and we can use the SWOT analysis on that. Self-care, making sure that we do that as well in that space. We've been through our final wrap up and how we did that. I want to say thank you for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. And you will definitely have your trainer back next Thursday, and you'll be doing session 2 of this particular unit, and it will go for another 2 weeks. So good night, everybody.